Starting things off at number 10, we have Astray Horatio, and I'm putting this one pretty low simply because I still don't know enough about it yet. There really isn't that much information compared to some of the other games here, but what they've shown so far does look pretty nice. It's basically a modern fantasy anime RPG where normal everyday life exists alongside supernatural stuff, and visually it has that really clean anime gacha look. I actually like the character designs because they're detailed without being way too busy. Some gacha characters look like the designer refused to stop adding belts, ribbons, jewelry, random metal pieces, and whatever the fuck else they could fit onto one person, but Astray Horatio looks a little cleaner than that. The combat also looks flashy and very character focused, but this is where I can't really say much because I still don't know how deep it actually is. I haven't seen enough to know if the combat is something I'll genuinely enjoy for months or if it's just going to look cool in trailers. I also have no idea what the daily gameplay is going to feel like, how generous the game will be, or how aggressive the gacha itself is going to be because there just isn't enough information yet. Still, I wanted to include it because this feels like one of those games that nobody is really talking about right now, but that could completely change once more people actually get access to it. I'm curious about Astray Horatio, but right now that's basically where I'm at. Curious, but definitely not sold yet. Up next at number 9, we have Chasing Kaleido Rider, and honestly, this is probably one of the easiest games on the list to explain why it caught my attention. Anime girls and motorcycles, that's it. You already have me looking, I like motorcycles, so the second I saw that bikes were actually a major part of the game instead of just something used in one cutscene, I immediately became more interested. You collect different riders, build your team, customize motorcycles, and the combat mixes real-time elements with cards and different abilities. There's also a relationship system where you can spend time with the characters outside of battle, so this game is basically trying to shove motorcycles, gacha, card combat, character collecting, and dating mechanics into the same package. And weirdly, I kind of respect it. At least it has an identity. There are so many new gachas now where I look at one screenshot and genuinely can't tell which game I'm looking at because everything has the same giant fantasy city, glowing ruins, grass fields, and anime characters wearing approximately 9 jackets at the same time. Chasing Kaleido Rider immediately looks different. What I'm still not completely sold on is the combat. I like the idea of cards changing how you play, but I don't know if it's actually going to stay interesting once you've been playing for a while. If every fight eventually becomes using the same cards in the same order, then all of that variety disappears pretty quickly. I also really hope the motorcycles matter beyond cosmetics because that would be such a wasted opportunity. Let me actually care about the bike I'm using. Let different bikes change something. Give me a reason to customize the damn thing besides making it prettier. I don't know if Chasing Kaleido Rider will be amazing, but out of all these games, it is definitely one of the easiest for me to remember, and that's already better than being another gacha I forget 5 minutes after watching the trailer. Coming in at number 8, we have Bleach Mirror's High, and when I first heard there was another Bleach mobile game coming, I wasn't exactly jumping out of my chair. We have had so many anime mobile games at this point that I automatically expect most of them to be the same thing with a different IP slapped onto it. But Mirror's High actually caught my attention because they're doing an original story set after the Thousand Year Blood War, and Tate Kubo himself designed new Soul Reapers for the game. That alone makes this way more interesting to me than just retelling the beginning of Bleach again and making me watch Ichigo meet Rukia for the 100th fucking time. The combat is also action-based, which I think fits Bleach way better. You're controlling a team of 3 characters, using abilities, dodging, switching around, and throwing out these really flashy finishing attacks. That's the kind of shit I want from a Bleach game. These characters are slicing buildings in half and firing energy attacks that cover half the screen. I don't want to select attack and then watch everyone politely take turns. My biggest worry is honestly just that it's a licensed anime gacha. I've seen this story way too many times. The game launches, everything looks great, people are excited, and then 6 months later we're pulling for Summer Ichigo version 4 because the original character has been power crept into the fucking ground. I really hope Mirror's High doesn't go that route too aggressively because Bleach has such a ridiculous amount of characters and abilities they could use without recycling the same 5 popular characters forever. I like what I've seen so far, especially the original story, but I've been burned enough by anime gachas that I'm keeping my expectations under control. Number 7 is Suikoden Star Leap, and this one is probably the weirdest game for me to see on a list like this because I still can't believe Suikoden came back as a gacha game. Normally when someone tells me an old JRPG franchise is being revived as a free-to-play mobile game, that sentence does not fill me with confidence. It usually makes me immediately assume the worst. But the more I've seen of Star Leap, the more I'm actually interested in it. What I really like is that it still looks like Suikoden. They didn't just throw away everything people liked about the series and turn it into some completely generic 3D anime RPG. It still uses that pixel art style, just with more detailed environments, cleaner animations, bigger character artwork, and modern effects around everything. The 108 stars idea is also back, which is a huge part of what makes Suikoden feel like Suikoden, and the headquarters system is returning too. I love games where your base actually changes as you recruit more people because it makes collecting characters feel like you're building something instead of just filling another menu with portraits. That's probably the part I'm most interested in. The thing that makes me nervous is also pretty obvious though. Suikoden is literally a series about recruiting a massive number of characters, and now we're putting a gacha system around that. I really don't want characters that should feel like part of the adventure to suddenly become something I'm staring at behind a 0.6% drop rate. I still don't know how annoying that part of the game is going to be, especially for the global release, so I'm not going to pretend I'm completely comfortable with it yet. But as someone who likes JRPGs, I definitely want to try Starleap because underneath all the free-to-play stuff, I can still see a lot of the things that made Suikoden special. At number 6, we have Monster Hunter Outlanders, and this is one where I already know exactly what could make me love it and exactly what could make me hate it. The good part is obvious, it's Monster Hunter. You're exploring areas, gathering materials, using different weapons, hunting giant monsters, breaking parts, crafting gear, and repeating hunts because the one material you need apparently has decided that it simply doesn't fucking exist. I love that gameplay loop. Monster Hunter already has a better progression system than most gacha games could ever dream of making, so Outlanders doesn't really need to invent anything crazy to be fun, it just needs to feel like Monster Hunter. And from the gameplay they've shown, it actually looks much closer to the main games than I expected. The weapons still look like they have real movesets, positioning matters, dodging matters, and the monsters aren't just standing there while you unload flashy ultimates into them. That's what I wanted to see. But then, we get to the part that worries me, which is the character collecting. I still don't know how much the gacha is going to interfere with the normal Monster Hunter progression. That's the entire thing for me. If I'm hunting monsters because I want to craft stronger gear, perfect, that's Monster Hunter. If the strongest progression suddenly becomes pulling some limited character because they deal 30% more damage than everyone else, then I think that completely messes with what makes Monster Hunter satisfying. I don't know exactly how far they're going to push that yet, so I'm staying cautious. But if they can keep the gacha stuff from taking over the actual hunting and gear progression, Outlanders could genuinely be one of the best mobile gachas purely because Monster Hunter is already fun as hell before you even add anything else to it. Halfway through the list at number 5, we have Silver Palace, and this is probably the game where I immediately liked the world before I even cared about the combat. I am getting so fucking tired of giant open fields in gacha games. I don't need another enormous map full of grass, cliffs, glowing rocks, and treasure chests every 20 meters. Silver Palace takes place in this Victorian-style city called Silvernia, and I love how dense everything looks. You have narrow streets, alleys, buildings, interiors, shops, and places that actually look like somewhere people live. It feels like a city instead of a map someone stretched out because bigger automatically means better. You play as a detective and investigate different crimes and supernatural cases, which is also something I really like because it gives you an actual reason to explore the city. There's a mind palace system where you're connecting clues and working through cases, and I'm hoping that ends up being a real part of the game instead of something you do for 5 minutes between combat sections. The combat itself is real-time action with character switching, dodges, parries, and the usual flashy character abilities, and honestly, it looks good. But that's not even why Silver Palace interests me. I'm much more interested in the detective stuff and just seeing how interactive this city actually is. My concern is that I've seen gacha show amazing cities before, and then after a few weeks the entire world basically becomes a pretty loading screen while you teleport between daily missions. I really don't want that here. I want the city to actually matter. Let me investigate random shit, find little stories, enter buildings, and feel like I'm actually living in this place. If Silver Palace can do that, I think it could be one of my favorite upcoming gachas. If it just becomes another action gacha with a detective skin slapped over it, then I'll be pretty disappointed. Number 4 is My Hero Academia United Survival, and this one surprised me because I honestly expected it to be another extremely standard anime gacha. When I see a huge anime IP getting a mobile game, I automatically expect the game to rely almost entirely on the fact that you already like the characters, but United Survival actually uses a roguelite structure, and that immediately makes it more interesting to me. You build a team using different heroes and villains, go into a run, pick upgrades as you progress, and slowly build your characters differently depending on what you get. I like that because roguelites are naturally good at making repetition feel a little less repetitive. You're still doing runs over and over, obviously, but at least you're making decisions along the way instead of just pressing auto on the same farming stage until your phone gets hot enough to cook an egg. What I want to know is how much the roguelite system actually changes from run to run. That's the part that will decide whether I keep playing something like this. If the upgrades genuinely let me make stupid builds and experiment with different teams, I can see myself enjoying it. If there's one obvious best setup and everything else feels worse, then the entire roguelite idea becomes kind of pointless. I do like that it's already playable though, because there isn't much speculation needed here. You can literally download it and see whether the gameplay works for you. I'm still not completely convinced this is going to be something people play for years, but compared to what I expected from another My Hero Academia mobile game, United Survival at least feels like it's trying to give me an actual game instead of just selling me Deku again. Now at number 3, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Spirit. And I genuinely think this game launched way more quietly than I expected, considering this is JoJo. This series has one of the most recognizable styles in anime, so I figured a new global gacha would be absolutely everywhere, but Golden Spirit kind of just appeared. The biggest appeal for me is obviously the roster. You can put characters from different generations together, so you're making these completely stupid teams that could never exist in the actual story, and that's exactly what I want from a crossover style JoJo game. Give me characters from different parts fighting together. Let me make some cursed team that makes absolutely no sense. That's half the fun. The game itself is more strategy focused than action focused, and you've got team positioning, different abilities, stand mechanics, equipment, awakening systems, bosses, PvP, and basically every other progression system a modern gacha can possibly fit into one menu. There's even dynamic weather affecting some battles, which I actually think is pretty cool because little mechanics like that can stop fights from feeling exactly the same. My concern is whether the game can actually take advantage of how creative JoJo is. JoJo fights are fun because the abilities are fucking weird. They're not just bigger fireballs. People are manipulating time, turning things into zippers, stealing memories, changing gravity, and doing completely ridiculous shit. If Golden Spirit reduces all of that to attack plus 20%, then it's wasting the best part of the series. I haven't played enough of it yet to know how well they're going to handle that long term, but the potential roster alone makes me want to see where the game goes. I just hope they actually embrace how weird JoJo is instead of making every character feel like a different colored damage dealer. Coming in at number 2, we have Azure Promelia, and I've been watching this game for a while because every time they show more of it, it somehow looks more expensive. This is coming from Manju, the developer behind Azure Lane, but this is obviously nothing like Azure Lane. Promelia is a full open world action RPG with collectible characters and these creatures called Kibo, and honestly the Kibo are probably the main reason I'm interested. I really like creature collecting games, so the idea of having these little creatures actually involved in exploration, combat, gathering, and traversal sounds much more interesting to me than just having another mascot floating next to my character. I want them to actually matter. Let me find rare ones, use different ones depending on where I'm exploring, and give me a reason to care about collecting them beyond filling out another encyclopedia. The combat also looks really smooth, character switching is fast, attacks have a lot of animation, and just moving around the world looks polished as hell. Visually, I think Promelia is probably one of the nicest looking gachas coming out right now. My only issue is that I am getting a little exhausted by open world gacha games. Everyone wants to make one now. We already have Genshin, Wuthering Waves, Tower of Fantasy, and then we have Neverness to Everness, Ananta, and who knows how many other games coming after that. Pretty graphics aren't enough anymore. I need Promelia to give me a reason to care about its world after the first 20 hours, and I think the Kibo system might be that reason. If the creature collecting is deep enough, I could see myself spending way too much time just finding and collecting shit instead of progressing the story. That's probably why I'm more excited about Promelia than most upcoming open world gachas. It has one thing that immediately makes me think about what I personally want to do in the game, and that's usually a good sign. Obviously at number 1 we have Anemo, and honestly this is probably the new game I'm most interested in actually trying for myself right now. The easiest way to describe why is that it looks like someone finally looked at creature collecting and decided there was still a lot more you could do with it besides just catching monsters and making them fight. Anemo is an open-world creature-catching RPG where you're exploring this huge world called Idle, finding different Anemo in the wild, battling them, catching them with Anipods, training them, evolving them, and then actually using their abilities to explore the world. And that last part is what immediately got me interested. There's this system called Twine where you can basically become the Anemo you've collected and use their abilities yourself. So if one can fly, swim, climb, or reach somewhere your normal character can't, you can actually use that creature to explore differently. I fucking love that idea because it gives collecting an actual purpose beyond just finding whichever creature has the biggest damage number. I want to see something weird in the distance and immediately start thinking about which anemo I need to get there. There's also home building, farming, your own homeland area, and a bunch of social stuff, so this feels way more like a game I could just lose time in instead of constantly thinking about stamina and daily missions. And visually, I really like it too. It's colorful without looking overly childish, the creature designs are cute as hell, and the world actually looks like somewhere I'd want to wander around for no reason. Now, I know some people are going to say Anemo technically isn't a traditional gacha game, and even the developers themselves have said they don't consider it one. Fair enough, you catch most Anemo directly in the world instead of pulling them from a normal character banner. But after the latest beta, there has already been some debate around certain limited and luck-based systems, and the whole game still sits right next to the gacha audience anyway, so I think it's worth talking about here. What matters more to me is whether it's actually fun. The latest global beta looked really promising, and with the full launch coming in September, this is probably the game on this list where I'm most likely to download it on day one, just to see if it actually lives up to everything they're showing. Because if the exploration, creature collecting, twine system, and world all work together properly, I can already see myself wasting an embarrassing amount of time hunting for one stupidly cute anemo instead of doing whatever quest the game actually told me to do. And honestly, that's exactly what I want from a creature collecting game.